to call the meeting to order. If we could get a roll call, please.
Gina Hackenworth. Debbie Haley. Matthew Johnson.
Here.
Jeanette Ketchner.
Here.
Scott Copeland.
Here.
Phil Lukehouse. Richard Maston.
Here.
James Pauley. Brian Pudman.
Here.
Richard Ruffgar.
Here. At this time, we would open up public comment. Seeing none, we can move on to the approval of the minutes from the June 17th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. On to item 5, our new project presentations. We'll have the second half this evening, and we'll start with the city of Lake St. Louis.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present our projects this afternoon. My name is Derek Castle. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Lake St. Louis. First project I'm going to show to you today is the Lake St. Louis Boulevard Reconstruction project. This project's a 4,500 foot pavement reconstruction project. It runs from Chase Court to Pleasant Meadow Drive on Lake St. Louis Boulevard. A couple of years ago, the city conducted a concept study to figure out how to upgrade and improve Lake St. Louis Boulevard from Chase Court up to the Spillway Bridge near Highway 7. Our plan was to construct enclosed drainage, improve a couple of culverts for flood improvement, add a sidewalk throughout the project, turn lanes at key intersections. We found that primarily due to utility relocation costs, that project was not financially viable because the costs were so high. The STP federal grant scores were too low, and we were not going to be able to get that project funded. So we reimagined the project, primarily removing the enclosed drainage component and the additional sidewalks. The only sidewalk improvements that are included currently are those to just bring it up to meet ADA minimums. Our project, once we reconfigured it like that, don't need to acquire right-of-way, no utility relocations to speak of, lower construction costs were about $1.5 million for this first phase. We were selected for $1.1 million federal grant on this last round of funding. The primary components of the project are pavement replacement, replacing the curb and gutter and the pavement with a 6-inch composite pavement, asphalt, and geosynthetic fabric. This thinner pavement section will allow us to construct the pavement, keeping traffic on the road. We've got kind of much like you would do an asphalt overlay project, but we're going much deeper to totally reconstruct the pavement. There are probably around 1,000 homes on this that have their only access on these 3 phases of Lake St. Louis Boulevard, this being the first phase. So we need to figure out a way to construct the project without building a bypass alongside of it. There's not really right away for that. This is the best thing that we can come up with. We're adding left turn lanes at Fox Trail and West Crossing. These are the components that are in our STP grant with the addition of the county road board money, we'll be able to add clear zone improvements, enhanced pavement markings, signal backplates, and conduit for future fiber for the GGL system. This is our budget. Anybody has any questions about that? And the breakdown of funds would be 71% federal, 25% county, and 3% city. Any questions on that project? The next project is Lake St. Louis Boulevard, Veterans Memorial Parkway, and I-70 roundabout concept study. This is a project where we're looking to figure out a way to address these two closely spaced signals. Traffic doesn't flow through this area very well. A lot of backups, and it just creates a challenge for mobility in this area. We just want to do a concept study to evaluate some ideas that we've got. Hopefully we find a solution that we can come forward and probably not next year but the following year for a grant application to build what we're thinking now is a roundabout in this area. Current level service for these two signal or intersections together is level service D. We think that by taking two intersections and turning them into one intersection with the roundabout and with the reduction in delays, and bring that up to a level service B. This is kind of problems that we see in this area. We have people pulling off the ramps trying to get in to the signal flow, blocking the people that are trying to come through and turn right and head to the hospital. You see there's another, from a different angle, this is another person trying to do the same thing. So we're trying to eliminate that, trying to keep traffic moving through here. Anytime you have traffic signals that are this closely spaced, they just don't function well. We've been talking to MoDOT about this concept and about how it'll work, and they think it has promise. So we need to bring in a consultant so that we can do some of the modeling that we can't do in-house. We've got our project scope defined. Really, we're going to look at several different options. We've come up with two different roundabout configurations that are a little bit novel. While they're unique, and you haven't really seen much that looks like this around St. Louis. They're not completely foreign. We didn't dream them up completely. This is very similar to the first option. It's in Michigan, and and this is very similar to the second option. It's in Utah. So we want to sit down with the consultant and with MoDOT, look at the options that we've come up with, see if somebody that's has more experience at roundabout design than we do, has a better idea, select one option to move forward with, and then take a step-by-step approach, just analyzing that the next step makes sense, and moving forward, eventually get to the point where we have a concept plan and budget that we can do a grant application on. Any questions on that? I will point out, I think there may be an error in your grant application. It should have been $44,000 total budget, 96 from the county and 4,400 from the city. I had it with different numbers in two different places in the application, so we pointed that out to John and to make sure that you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Thank you very much. City of St. Peters.
Good afternoon, my name is Bert Benasek. I'm the Director of Transportation with the City of St. Peters. Thank you for the opportunity to present. St. Peters has 3 projects that we will be presenting this afternoon. The first is the Jungermann Road Bridge Replacements Project. Jungermann Road between Barkwood Trails Drive and Margaret Brown Court has 2 box culvert structures in that segment. One is a 4-barrel box culvert, the other is a single-barrel box culvert. Both of those culverts qualify for MoDOT's annual or biannual inspection program, and both projects were found to be structurally deficient. East-West Gateway, at the beginning of this year, had sent out a solicitation for supplemental bridge replacement funds. We submitted for that project and received FY16 construction or FY15 design and FY16 construction funds to replace those projects. One of the things when we were, that kind of pointed us in that direction, other than the sufficiency of those 2 box culvert structures, is this area experiences periodic flooding, flash flooding. This year has been especially troublesome with that road has been closed as many as 5 times in the last 6 weeks, actually, with various flash floodings. But on average, about once a year we have to close the road due to some type of flash flooding, and that's due to 2 things. And this was these are findings that are a result of a study, stormwater master plan study that we had performed citywide by Black and Beach. One is that both structures are not hydraulically sufficient for the amount of flow that's going to them. They need to be larger, need to have a higher hydraulic capacity. The second piece of that is that the road profile itself, as the creek rises, the storm sewers that connect to these culverts surcharge, and so that also contributes to road flooding. The stormwater literally comes out of the structures and into the roadway. I've got a picture that kind of shows you the lay of the road. You can see we've got these low spots. This is one of the culvert crossings here. There's another culvert crossing up the way. You see these low spots here. Those are sumps in the road. And so as the creek comes up, even if the culvert is able to take it, sometimes the water will surcharge through those storm sewers and then flood the roadway that way. So part of this project is not only replacing the deficient culverts, but also to adjust the roadway profile to eliminate these low spots. We have more freeboard into for the storm sewer structures. So this is the project location. Just for reference, north is this way, south is that way. Willott Road is maybe about a half-mile north here. This is Barkwood Trails, and this is a trail crossing. So this is the 4-barrel culvert. That picture that I showed you where the road was kind of rolling, this is where that culvert is located. And then further to the south there is that single-barrel culvert. So again, both culverts met East-West Gateway or MoDOT's minimum rating for funding, and so we have received federal funding for that. But the key piece on that funding is it is only for, the federal funds can only be used to replace the culvert and perform the related roadway work. So that work that I was telling you about adjusting the roadway profile, the federal funds won't pay for that. So our grant application to the road board is what we're asking is St. Peters will utilize the federal funds and its funds to pay for the design. We have actually selected a consultant to do that work. HR Green, and they'll be starting here in the next month or so. We're asking for 80% of the local match for the federal reimbursed portion of the project. And then for the road construction, what we're asking for is an 80-20 split, so 80% funded through the road board with the 20% match from the city of St. Peters. So at the end of the day, you've got a $2.1 million project, 69% of it funded through the federal grant, 23% funded through the St. Charles Road Board grant if we're selected, and then 8% funded by the city of St. Peters. So the primary purpose again of the project is to improve the hydraulic capacity and the structural sufficiency of the culverts, but also adjust the roadway profile. Both those improvements improve the reliability of Jungermann Road and stops this really almost annual flooding that we have, flash flooding problem that we have. Any questions? Okay. The second project is the Jungermann Road, Boone Drive intersection culvert, and I title, I guess we have to apologize. Jungermann Road, Boone Drive, Culvert and Intersection Improvement Project. This project is located at the intersection of Jungermann Road and Boone Drive. It's also replacing a deficient box culvert. The difference is this culvert is not large enough to qualify for MoDOT's program. Actually, if you drove this intersection, you probably wouldn't see the culvert. You wouldn't know where it's at. It's been connected with various pipes to the east, and various improvements to Jungermann Road have almost made the culvert unknown, but it's there. So the purpose is to replace this deficient culvert, but also improve the intersection because this culvert is located so close to the intersection. I'll show you a picture. This is the culvert that I'm referring to. It's a 15 by 10 culvert structure. This is the Boone Drive, Jungermann Road intersection. So this project is located north of the previous project that I just spoke to. So the issues we have is the structural sufficiency of this culvert, and I'll show you some pictures that show that. But also the intersection itself is substandard. It's substandard in terms of the radii. It's very difficult to make a southbound right-hand turn and stay within the outside southbound lane. So we want to improve the intersection radii to get the same situation coming from this development. Also, we want to improve the intersection and bring it up to ADA compliance. So we'll get new ADA ramps, new signals with head push buttons and the types of crossings that are required to meet the ADA compliance for the intersection. And we recently inspected this culvert, saw that it was deficient. We had this in our long-range plan to improve anyways, and so we thought if we're going to improve this intersection, we might as well go ahead and improve this culvert at the same time. This area also experiences periodic flooding, not quite as frequently as the area to the south, but it does. We have flooding that occurs primarily because of this. Let me just show you a picture. It would be easier to explain. So this is pictures of the culvert itself. So this is inside the culvert looking on. You can see that we've got some scaling and some pretty severe cracking that's occurring. This culvert structure has been improved and lengthened as we've improved Jungermann Road. So there's portions of the original culvert, which is a stacked block wall. I'll show you pictures of that. There's portions of this that are literally beams on top of this stacked block wall, so it's almost kind of like a bridge. And then we've got a portion of it that's like a traditional reinforced concrete culvert. So this has been kind of cobbled together as we've improved Jungermann Road over here. Can you see that picture? It might be a little dark here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so you can kind of see in this area, this is the stacked block wall, and these are the beams. Here I've got a better picture, a little better picture. This is the metal pipe, this 108-inch diameter metal pipe that ties into what is the original culvert section, and these are these beams that I'm showing you. You can see the beams literally intersect with the top of the pipe, so we got a lot of interesting hydraulics happening here. But you can also see you're starting to see corrosion on the beams themselves, and so these are things that have us concerns about the structural sufficiency of the rating. We still think it's safe to drive on, but it's something we need to address before it gets worse. Again, this is another picture showing you've got a reinforced concrete wall section of this culvert. You've got this stacked stone original piece, and then you've got this CMP coming in, and then these beams. This was an attempt to show you some corrosion here, but I got a better picture. This is more corrosion on the beam. Again, so you've got some leaching and some infiltration that's taken place as well. So we've got some issues with that culvert that we want to address. And so we want to address this basically replacing a deficient box culvert section, but also improve the intersection. Again, the culvert itself is not large enough to qualify for MoDOT's federal program, so we did make an inquiry. They told us the structure is not large enough. It has to be at least 20 feet. You have to span at least 20 feet for it to qualify. So we're not able to go after federal funds. So what we're requesting is it's a $1.14 million project, 80% funded by the road board, and 20% funded by the city of St. Charles. Any questions?
Up in Jungermann, New Mexico. for that realignment of that intersection?
Yeah, it's just south of that
What's the
location.
distance there? I mean, is there gonna be, because I mean, I know you're adding additional lanes in up there, and it looked like you're gonna be adding additional lanes in down there.
This location's half mile-ish or so
Okay.
south of there, so it's maybe a little further than that. But it's in that general location. The last project we're presenting here is the Mid-River Small Drive Widening Project. This is a project that we had submitted last year as well. This is improving Mid-River Small Drive from the I-70 North Outer Road to Ecology Drive. We want to widen it from a 3-lane section to a 5-lane section, and to basically add an additional northbound and southbound through lanes. And then we also want to look at the intersection of the North Outer Road and Mid-River Small Drive to see what we can do to kind of help improve the geometrics there. The primary driver for this is, I'm just going to get a picture better to see. Coming out of the DDI, there's a very, actually, there's a very abrupt, coming out of the DDI, so I'm sitting on the I-70 Mid-Rivers interchange, the Divergent Diamond interchange, and I'm looking north. And as you can see, we've got 2 northbound lanes that come over and get to this point. And if you're in this lane, you're supposed to go eastbound onto the North Outer Road, but a lot of folks want to merge over quickly to get into this northbound through lane. And you can see here, north of the North Outer Road, you've got a really quick transition as well. So what we want to do is basically construct an additional northbound through lane, take you across the railroad tracks and up to Ecology Drive, and then do the same thing as you're coming southbound. You've got a left, you've got a through, you have a second through. So really be able to make use of the 2 through lanes, the north and southbound through lanes through this DDI, and kind of eliminate this abrupt taper that we have. The benefits of the additional lane is this: it'll provide more stacking when there's a railroad crossing just north of this intersection, and provide more stacking and more queuing distance, so that when we do have a train that disrupts traffic flow, we've got more queuing and we won't back up into the interchange.
What's happening with traffic counts in Salt River and all that?
They have continued to grow, so Salt River is definitely getting a lot of use. We've got the various property owners north of 70, are primed for redevelopment. They're interested in selling property, so we're expecting that that area is going to take off at some point, and when that happens, then we really this project becomes even more important. Funding for the project, it's about $1 million, and we've actually went ahead and we're actually going to do the design. We have an RFQ out right now for the design. So St. Peter's would design the project. What we're looking for is help with utility right-of-way and construction costs. So we're looking at a 73% funded road board project and a 27% funded local funded project. Questions about that? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. City of Roseville.
Doug Lee with the City of Winsville, the Assistant Director of Public Works. First, I'd like to thank St. Charles County as well as the Road Board for your support and help on past projects as well as current projects such as Winsville Parkway Phase 1 turn lane. Tonight we're going to be presenting 2 projects, and if they look familiar, it's because they are. These projects, as Mr. Shoup from O'Fallon mentioned in the past, do represent a little bit of insanity. We have brought these forward 3 times and 2 times respectively. However, there have been some adjustments based on the format, the scope of the project, as well as the circumstances behind the funding for these projects. I think changed them considerably. So the first project we're going to be looking at is going to be Winsville Parkway Turn Lane Phase 2. As you can see here, this is really just a continuation of our project that we recently started construction on to add a center left turn lane to Winsville Parkway. The scope on the west side starts at Schrader Creek Boulevard, which is by our law enforcement center, and it extends eastward to Meyer Road. And what this does is really allow a center left turn lane that Right now we get a lot of stacking and considerable number of accidents. As you can see here, over the past 3 years, there were 59 accidents on this stretch of road. And the majority of those are simply that third or fourth car behind the car turning left. And it is minor rear-end accidents, so far no real fatalities or major injuries, but considerable number of accidents through there. It is a 0.45 mile stretch of roadway, and the ADT right now is just a little bit over 19,000 cars. As mentioned, the objectives for this project are to add the center turn lane to help alleviate and provide some safety in turn movements. Some other things that it's going to do are help to alleviate some congestion that we receive, particularly in the PM at night as cars are headed westward back into the city. So really get some of that stacking, that this turn lane will help those people get out of the lanes of traffic and hopefully reduce some of those traffic times and improve the signal operation through there. The last one we have is also improving pedestrian access between some existing parks as well as new parks that are just coming online. With the turn lane phase 1, we've incorporated a 10-foot wide multi-use pedestrian trail on the south side. And while the road board is not participating in the 10-foot wide portion of the trail, it is going to be incorporated in this project to help accessibility throughout the community. What are some of the outcomes we're hoping for? We're looking at a reduced number of accidents in the area, as well as improved public safety. We're looking to decrease our accident rate by 50% over the comparison coming into the project. So over that 5-year period for our accident data, we hope to reduce that by 50% after the 5 years of the project. Decrease rush hour delays, and also looking to bring a lot of those intersections and facilities up to current ADA standards that just simply aren't there at this time. A little bit here is just kind of our matrix that we put together that needs to be updated with 5 years of traffic data. This is what we're proposing to fill out to show what the results are and what the outcomes are of the project. The project at this time is about a $2.8 million project. We can go to here. This is one of the major differences is we really looked and reevaluated what the scope of the project was. It was shortened up a little bit in total length, as well as kind of tightening up the estimate as far as what some of the things were asked for at the federal level. So this wound up being one of 3 projects that the city was successful in obtaining East-West Gateway funding on. It was cut back, so it is a 50-50 cost share with the federal. So what the city is looking at is the 80-20% from the city's perspective, so about $1.136 million in county funding and $284,000 in the city's part to continue with this turn lane improvement. Here we can look a little bit. We're basically proposing to add an additional 12-foot lane to the outside south side, as well as the 10-foot trail on that portion of the roadway. Our schedule is to really go into design in early 2017 with 2018 required for right-of-way, and then in that 2019-2020 season to complete construction. And here's just what the existing cross-section is, just 4-foot sidewalks on either side with 2 directions in each way of 12-foot lanes of traffic. And our proposed cross-section is really just adding that additional 12-foot of pavement. You can see a few pictures here, gives you a little bit of an idea of how close the 2 lanes of traffic are coming in and going there. And there's numerous residential subdivisions along that stretch of road, several hundred houses and a couple stretches there where they really have no left turn bay to get into their subdivision. So it does create a lot of traffic issues, particularly at night. Here's kind of one making that left turn in that you can see there, as well as some ADA crossing there, some of those upgrades that need to be made at that intersection too. Any questions on that project? Okay. Our second project we're looking at is going to be Highway 61 Western Outer Road, and this I believe is the 3rd year in a row that we've presented this. This again is under a little bit different format. In past years we presented solely as a design project, hoping to be ready for the anticipation of future MoDOT funding. And what the outer road is it's really it's an integral part of the city's thoroughfare transportation plan. And what it does is it's really a north-south connector road that unites, kind of brings the entire northern side of the city back into town as far as shopping and access to amenities. So what we looked at is really moving this forward is the fact of the safety improvements that are currently underway on Highway 61 could look to limit a lot of that access for existing residences for future development as well as businesses in that stretch. If we go look, what we've done is we've originally looked at phase 1 starting at the Parkway and moving north towards the population centers that would access first. And what this does is kind of flips it from one end to the other, but what it also does is it incorporates now a construction component of the project. We have now is overall 2.5 miles. We're looking at phase 1 that would go from Piney Road south to intercept and come into a proposed development in that area. Phase 3 is kind of a tough spot to build if you've driven through there. It's pretty much rock bluff, almost right to the edge of the existing right-of-way. And a lot of what this project is some conceptual design of how to deal with that topography. And then we make Phase 2 as a design further to the south. What we can do is improving safety along there. We're providing access and encouraging a lot of development. There's some pretty good sized parcels right there off the parkway that simply don't have access or don't really have that transportation for people moving through them. We are still looking for a cost-effective design to utilize what right-of-way is out there. There's a lot of existing sections of Granville Drive, if you've driven through there, that are existing, so there is some road bed that would need improvement, but there is an opportunity to use that. We're also hoping to, as outcomes, reducing accidents, really promoting some additional funding opportunities, as well as commercial and residential development, along with continuing partnerships with FHWA, MoDOT, and St. Charles County. At this time, what it is about a $2.3 million project that we're looking at, and it's a design of the entire stretch with a conceptual design in the middle piece and then a construction component. And the real difference at this time is this project now has a private-public partnership that's developed on there to help fund that first phase construction. So as we go to the next slide that looks a little bit at the cost is the private developer is really looking to participate as far as providing right-of-way and then providing the construction and design for that first phase of the project to get to their proposed Lexington development. So what it works out being is, of that overall project, we're looking for $1.455 million from the county. It winds up being $305,000 from the city, and then private participation of almost $550,000 to move forward with the project.
Are you coming up with that figure?
On
549?
549 was based upon really the estimate to provide the improvements within that stretch of road to get to their basically facility or to where their project will begin.
Okay.
And it is a little bit different if you look at the percentages or numbers, as we typically are 80-20 as a municipality for the city. What it is an 80-20 participation in right-of-way and design, and then the construction is bumped up in that portion where it's higher from the developer side with the construction aspect. This is based on his timing and the submittals that he's looking for the city for the approval of that development. It is a little bit more fast-tracked than what our typical projects are. So this would be looking to go to design of phase 1 very quickly, the end of December, first part of January, with project phase 2 design to follow up pretty quickly after that. Right-of-way acquisition is fast-tracked for phase 1. The development currently owns a majority of that right-of-way. There are 2 small parcels that would need to be acquired prior to construction. And then utility coordination and construction starting pretty rapidly there in the first part of 2017. This is again a little bit of conceptual work that was done by CMT as part of the Highway Safety improvements. And what it is kind of conceptualizing what those connections would be. This is a World Outdoor Emporium on the south side. So it's conceptualizing a little bit of what utilizing this existing right-of-way pieces are and connecting those in for a fully connected outer road. And here is just looking through the entire stretch, coming down from Piney Road. The proposed development here is outlined in red, and that roadway through phase 1 would connect through right to the southern section of that development. Just a little bit conceptual as far as what that would look like again, as far as what cross section we were proposing. A little bit different, a little bit modified from what our typical city standard is as far as curb and gutter and enclosed storm system. But it's really kind of working with what's out there and then also following a little bit of MoDOT design criteria as far as how they look at those outer roads. And here in the end is just another look at some existing conditions. You can kind of see here a little bit of proposed. This would be looking north from World Outdoor Emporium's current stub street there at the end of MoDOT maintenance. And this is just a quick smattering or collection of some of that existing roadway that's in the field. Really ones that are looking to connect in with new road as well as reconstructing these existing pieces to provide that continuous transportation improvement on the northern side of the city.
Is this part of the MoDOT owners? This would be empty out right there by QT?
It would.
Okay, so you're planning on getting a piece of that property from MoDOT or was it Granville Drive?
Correct. There would be the possibility of utilizing some of their existing right-of-way that goes in front of their maintenance facility.
Right.
And then once you go past that, then really there's it's a Bornhop Trust owns that next piece. So there would be some coordination or some opportunities for additional private partnerships in there as far as how you get to the parkway is a little bit of flexibility based on what their development needs are.
So is this going to run all the way to the parkway?
With phase 2 would run from the parkway, yes.
Okay.
The phase 3, we're really looking at conceptual design at this point because we really have some topographic limitations as well as some property acquisition hurdles that are out there. It's really a rock bluff within about 15 to 20 feet of the existing road. So there's really some opportunities or ways to try to work with the private development in the area to maybe swing that road back behind and try to continue that access, maybe not in a traditional outer road, but in some way that provides that same connectivity. And then based on this, this private-public partnership, we've already had one development meeting where there's some interest from a developer directly south of that project to participate as well with some right-of-way and possibility assistance in acquiring some additional right-of-ways for some other connector roads in that area. So I think it really kind of starts to kick off a little bit of momentum and looks at continuing the development along that corridor of the city.
Walk me through this again. What's one going from where to where?
Sure. Easiest way is probably to look here that, first off, we looked at phase 1 beginning on the south. Because our intent was to get Wentzville Parkway to the Timber Trace subdivision. In order to get those, there will be about 500 proposed homes in that subdivision. And it was to try to get them a safe access back into the city. Where right now they only have one full access at-grade connection across 61 that with the 61 improvements could be limited to right in, right out. So that was kind of the first intent behind the project. But what we've done instead is look to flip phase 1 to the north. And that was based on the ability or the availability of that private-public partnership to not only design part of the roadway, but to actually begin construction of a first phase of it. So our first phase would go from the Piney P and 61 interchange to Lexington. It's kind of right by there, just across Dry Branch Creek there, where there was a larger home up on the hill. That'll be that first phase of development. That'll take us to the property line. Start north, work south, and then skip a very tough piece with a bluff in the middle, and then work our way back again south to north to connect that subdivision in, and then working with some private partnerships in the area of trying to find ways to bypass that hill, or if need be, look at a conceptual design that does take it through that bluff, and then would just then be basically the dollars and cents of how we get through there construction-wise.
Ballpark stage phase 1 through 3. I mean, 15, 20 million.
I think we're somewhat going to be close to where we were at before. We'd originally proposed about an $885,000 design project for an overall $8 to $9 million worth of roadway. So I'd say we're still somewhere in that $10 million ballpark. It puts us a little bit tighter when we're looking at this piece. That's kind of the unknown right now, as it deals a lot with as far as how you would blast or deal with that rock hill. And that from some of the private developers in the area, the individual who owns that bluff is somewhat reluctant to have any development in that area. So that could be the one that we're held up on, but I'd say we're still in that $10 million range overall.
If you don't get the piece in the middle, we can do it.
We have already looked at some opportunities to provide access through the interior portions of the subdivisions. So unfortunately, it wouldn't carry that same continuous outer road. It would still provide the connectivity, but it wouldn't necessarily be through that continuous outer road system. So there are some opportunities maybe to work behind the bluff and provide access internally through those subdivisions to accomplish somewhat of the same goal.
Is this stone on that bluff usable to fill?
It could be.
Because
Lots of it are.
You're going to need fill on the other end, right?
Right. There are some pretty good draws and sections through there. We'll need some retaining walls and fill.
So
It is Burlington limestone.
Use that as, instead of being 3, being 2 or 1, and use it where you don't have to haul fill in and
Sure.
haul fill out.
Yeah, and I would hope that that's part of what we get through the full design of phase 1 and 2, and possibly through that conceptual, is to look at some possibilities or some kind of outside the box ideas of how to get this addressed in a quicker manner. That's a good point.
It doesn't make sense if you paid for it to fill in and then have
Right.
it all out, all out.
Absolutely. Questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And County Highway Department?
Hello, I'm Chris Bostic, Engineering Manager of St. Charles County Highway Department. I'm here today to talk to you about 6 projects. The first 2 is First being South River Road Reconstruction, and then the Birdie Hills Road Extension, which is a design and right-of-way project. And then the final four are not necessarily together, but they're interrelated with a future day Focal Parkway. So to give you an idea where we're at, South River Road, of course, is here in St. Charles, east end of the county, Golden Triangle Reconstruction type of project. Move a little farther out west with a new road at Birdie Hills. And then the four projects that would make up the day Focal Parkway from basically all south of I-70 and looping around, including portions of Highway 10. We'll start first with the South River Road Reconstruction. What we're talking about here is the replacement of pavement that is badly deteriorated and has been patched multiple times in the past, and it's basically come to the point now that future patching is not going to solve the problem. So it would be more cost effective to either break up the pavement in place like a rubblization or completely reconstruct the pavement. Either way, we'll have a whole new driving surface on South River Road as part of the project. Also included is filling in some gaps, roughly 1,000 feet of sidewalk that needs to provide a continuous route from not exactly at South Main, but up near the Juvenile Justice Center down towards the new intersection we did a few years back at Marina Parkway and Breeders Road. This project has been recommended for federal funding. Just give you a couple of pictures. Basically what we're talking about here, obviously we have a lot of bad joints. We have cracks through the middle of slabs, longitudinal cracking at the joints, and again we've got patches, but patches, it just would be endless if we were to do it as piecework at this point. So construction on this one, it's roughly a $2.2 million project. The federal government will be paying 80%, so the 1.744, and here today to request $436,000 in road board funds to make up the match. Feel free to stop me at any time. I'll just keep moving on. Next one is the Birdie Hills Road Extension Project. This would be for design and partial right-of-way funds to construct a new road from Birdie Hills, potentially down to somewhere on Boone Road. So I realize this is a little bit vague here. The basic idea being the project would include an interchange on 364 at Gudermuth, either where the overpass is now or a potentially different location, but somewhere along 364. It would include, from what we've seen so far, probably 3 or 4 potential options. We currently have a consultant on board doing a very broad overview study of this entire corridor. They're starting to narrow down the numbers. What it looks like is we're expecting, once the road would open, traffic in the range of 11,000 to 15,000 vehicles would use a road from an interchange somewhere on Butte up to Birdie Hills at the top of the screen there. And that would provide a significant reduction to some of the traffic problems down at 364, 94, and the Mid-Rivers Mall Drive intersection. So over the course of the rest of this year, our consultant will be narrowing down those options to one final option. So I'm here today to talk about, again, the right-of-way, some limited right-of-way funds and the full design funds for the road extensions. We're asking for the right-of-way funds now, basically in case some properties were to become available once they've narrowed down the route later this year, but we could go ahead and grab them up. So the basic cost breakdown is for, sorry I don't have the design and the right-of-way split out, but what we're talking about is $2.2 million to do design and partial right-of-way, split basically over a 3-year period leading to construction, which of course we come back and be requesting in the future.
Do you have an estimate on total construction? I mean,
We do not have an estimate. Of the, once they kind of refine these 3 alternatives, we will get estimates at that point, which could be, not making things up here, anywhere from $5 to $15 million. We'll look at the most cost-effective, narrow it down to 2 alternatives, and then it'll be, a balance of cost versus, traffic.
So construction be
So-
about 20, something like
Most likely, yes.
that. So buy it now when it's cheap, that's what you're looking for.
That is the idea, right? But of course, not until we have a good idea, at least from the study, where we'll be going before we start the design. As we get into the design, then we can fast track potentially some right-of-way parcels. I have now 4 projects for you, all related to Wentzville's Dave Hochul Parkway. Starting, we'll start on the east end here. Just to describe it for you, on Highway N, the last one I'll present is a project at Duello and Hopewell. Basically, the Dave Hochul Parkway would go up through the Z, and instead of going through the Highway Z, Highway N intersection, there'd be an extension of Buckner Road. It would follow Buckner Road over and across Highway N onto South Point Prairie. South Point Prairie comes up this way, but veers back to the right, so it'd be an extension of Interstate Drive. South Point Prairie to match where that new interchange is that the city of Wentzville is about to begin the design on. So I'll start up by I-70 first with Interstate Drive to South Point Prairie extension or extension. So as I was saying, South Point Prairie veers back to the right. So this would be designed right away in construction funds to bring South Point Prairie over to meet the new interchange and extend Interstate Drive to the west also. Otherwise, the new interchange it's not going to meet anything the way things are right now. So construction-wise, we've estimated out that we'll design right-of-way and construction $4.35 million. It is a new road extension. East-West Gateway is not going to participate in the new road extension, so therefore we come to you asking for 100% of the funds to do the design, right-of-way, and construction of both of those roads. It's a total project, 2 roads in 2018. Second project is down on where South Point Prairie hits Highway N. South Point Prairie now continues through N, turns this way, and whereas Buckner then comes off and has a pair of 90-degree turns there. So what we'd be looking at doing with this project is widening South Point Prairie as it approaches Highway N, and then doing something with the curves on Buckner Road, which I will show you here on the next slide. And that's basically coming off of Buckner down this area, straightening through, and making this a through route where it'll go straight up to Highway N. Basically eliminate 3 to 4 pretty undesirable curves. So our cost on this one is roughly $2.5 million is what we're looking for. Again, it's primarily new road, so it's something we have not submitted to East-West Gateway. And we're looking for design, right-of-way, and construction funds to build this segment of the future depot. Along those lines, I have another project just a little bit to the east of here, which is the extension of Buckner Road, which would be, rather than routing traffic up through Highway N and through this intersection at Route Z, it would be taking Buckner Road and heading straight to the east and making this the direct connection from Highway N to Buckner. And the basic that's what most of you guys are familiar with what it looks like at Z and N right now, and it's a bit of a mess. It's rather complicated, so anything we can do to avoid that, I think, would be a positive, besides the fact that the new parkway will follow Buckner, so that's how big. Cost-wise on this one, again, it's another $2.5 million project, and we're looking for all road board funding, and it is design, right-of-way, and construction the same general schedule as the previous project. One last project for you here, and this is the intersections of Hopewell Road and Duello Road at Route N. It's one of the most dangerous intersections in the county. We did an interim improvement to Duello several years back now at this point, where we moved the skewed intersection up to a better point on the curve of Route N. But still, we have high speeds on Route N. We have some substandard curves, and we have the offset intersections between where Hopewell and Duello are. So the plan would be to relocate Hopewell Road so it's right directly across from Duello. We'd have to do some improvements to this interim intersection to widen that out. This would be all new road, and then talking about a relocation on Route N also to smooth those curves. And there's just a couple shots. This is from the newly relocated Dwell Road. It's actually better than it used to be, if you can believe that, but looking to the west, it's still not great. It shows the sharpness of the curve there. And then the other one is also to the west from Hopewell, and Dwell is just right about where that car is. So we have that kind of offset turning movement, not to mention the high speeds on end that make this still really dangerous intersection.
Go back to go back a couple, okay.
Yeah.
Are we redoing part of end here,
Yes,
where the state just redid?
correct.
The state just finishing up now?
They just added shoulders, right?
Yes.
We let them know ahead of time that, and actually they knew, because this, I haven't mentioned it yet, this is federally funded. It's on the books. They know it's a project. We talked to them. And basically, once they knew the schedule, which was we probably wouldn't build it for 3 years, they didn't want to mess with their plans. They just went ahead and put the shoulder on. It's a little safer with a 3-foot shoulder. I mean, if you driven like D or DD or N, it is nicer, but it's not, would not be the same as what we're proposing to do with the curve smoothing.
Yeah, it's a bad.
Is that your ranking and preference from 1 to 4, these numbers?
It is not. I would say 4 is the most critical. It's also the one of the 4 that has federal funds. I would say of those, that number 1 project would be the next most important, because it's going to tie into the interchange, and we have to have that interchange connected.
David's Home Parkway, that's gonna come from, all the way from 4061, that's where the Winsville project comes in?
Yes, that's right.
So it's gonna be 4061,
I don't know if I go that far.
all the way down, where's it gonna terminate at?
It would go all the way to I-64, basically. Whoops. It does not show on the page, but it would follow in like all the way past Summers too.
Okay.
It's basically following in from 364. Well, it is 364 up through
So
Dwell.
it would become basically near the Parkway?
Yes.
That section?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be named that. It probably wouldn't be, but
Yeah,
that's
but I mean, it's
that's the
basically-
idea, right?
Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
So it makes a big ring around Winsville
Mhm.
to the west. Okay.
Can you go to number 3?
Okay.
How far away is that strange intersection with Z and N?
That is
How
about,
far away is that from your red line?
it's about a quarter of a mile.
It's in is where Mobile is, and there's like 2
Yes.
houses, and then there's Buckner Road, there's a church.
Mm-hmm.
Church sits right in the corner of Buckner
Right
Road,
there.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is the thought to just leave that the way it is, or is there any future plans on improving that? It's so odd coming into that.
I had understood MoDOT at one point, I think, was looking at roundabouts there, maybe 2, one on each end, but I don't know if anything ever, or where that's at in
Yeah, it's
terms
on
of their
State
planning.
Road, yeah.
Okay. I just wondered how far away you are that.
Number 1, where Point Prairie comes in, 270. Winsville's doing their side of the highway and the north side of the highway. This is the south side of the highway, what we're doing.
Yes, that's correct.
And isn't there a soccer park there on, is that on Point Prairie?
There's something planned, how far down is
There
it?
is, there's a 7-plex baseball complex, basically right where the realignment occurs from David Home Parkway into South Point Prairie, just to the west of that tie.
In here?
Further down, just south of the creek. Yep, right in
Okay,
there.
gotcha. Yeah. All right, I got one left. Just to wrap things up here, I have the financials, just so you know. The route in Hopewell Road for Dwell 4, it's roughly $1.8 million project. Again, it's federally funded. And we federally funded just the construction, so 80% of the construction. So what we're looking at is we got about $1.1 million in federal funds, and we'll be come to the road board for $679,000. Again, it's design, right away, and construction in 2018. That is all I have, unless you have any further questions.
I had a question on the first one that you did, which was
South River Road? Mhm.
Is that road in the floodplain?
Good question. I would have to check and see. it is, but it's very close. I think
Not
it's
your
right.
floodplain?
Right. I don't think so.
I think it's
Maybe it's out, I think.
Yeah.
Could you verify that?
I'll do that, yes.
Okay.
you got a lot of federal money on that one too, though.
Yes, they love those preservation projects, so right.
One
yeah.
point,
Mhm.
$1.25 million of federal money on that.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. John, where do we proceed with scoring next meeting?
What I was proposing to the road board in an email earlier, I don't know if that's probably last week, is that if we can get the ranking from the board members, whether you want to stay and rank them tonight or at least in the next week or so. So I can start taking the rankings, consolidating those, and get that information back out to the board members prior to our meeting in August. So we have a meeting the third week in August. We generally make that a work session. But this year I'd like to see if we can actually vote on the recommendation in August. So we would discuss it, come to a recommendation and vote on it. From a scheduling standpoint, that puts me in a better position to get the recommendation to the county council and finish up some of the contracts with the cities on the final recommendation. So
How about end of the month? People have the recommendations back to you, or their rankings?
that would be fine if we can get them by the end of the month, and that
August
gives, then I can turn them out the week after so everybody has a chance to review them.
Okay. And then what are we looking at, a total of about 25 million?
Yeah, I think I'd estimate about 21 million.
21 million?
Yeah. We may be, I'm looking at those numbers, so we may have a little bit of growth in there to get to 25, but I think it's close to be between it,
So
21 to 25.
Then we'll say 731 for people's rankings to be back to you.
That'd be great if they would email them, or if they want to mail them, either way would be fine.
And then you'll get something to us ahead of that August meeting, what your compilation numbers look like.
Yes.
Anything else this evening for the road board? So you're proposing on August 19th, we'd have the discussion and potentially vote on our TIP plan and our recommendation to the county council.
If we are able to get that done in the August meeting, it puts me in a better position.
That's fine.
But we want to make, we got to come out of that August meeting feeling comfortable with the recommendation at that point. We have placed the video online from the last month's meeting, and we'll do the same on this. So there'll be a YouTube video linked on the county's transportation page if anybody wants to re-listen to this. And we have obviously some board members that are not here that can listen to those meetings.
It's a little different than the past, but when we typically left our work session, we had basically done our work. And then the September meeting, we came and just approved what we finalized at the work session. So I don't think it should be a problem to have the discussion, kind of, unless there is a problem, we'd still have that buffer of that extra month. But I think typically we've left the August work session with a pretty finalized idea of what we wanted to do anyway. And the September meeting took 10, 15 minutes.
Exactly.
So, okay. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.